Welcome back. One of the funny things that happened was the very first time I ever met Rollo was the first moment he walked into the studio, the first time we did a podcast, and now he's one of my best friends. First time I ever met this gentleman, it was the same thing. He came in here, we talked. It was actually Andrew Tate who messaged me on WhatsApp and said, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it to the States, but I got a buddy who's there, and you definitely should interview him. And since then, he and I have not only grown a friendship, but we've been able to solve so many problems for one another. He had a really viral statement that he said last time he was on my show is like, if we can't make money together, then you. Like, I don't want to be friends. And it's one of these things that went very viral and is very, very instructional for me. And I've definitely changed a lot of the things that I've done over the last couple of years since I've been friends with this guy. And so welcome, Mr. Justin Waller from Denham Springs, Louisiana.
That's right.
Is right? I get it right?
Yeah. Denham Springs, man.
Denham Springs. And then my co-host today, he is a sophomore. He's a sophomore, right, at Harvard?
Senior.
He's a senior at Harvard now.
Skipping grades.
Do you see how quick it happens? It's like you push the space bar and it skips ahead. He's a senior at Harvard right now studying evolutionary psychology. It is Tristan Darshan. How you doing, Tristan?
Doing great.
Beautiful. I asked you about this before. We haven't talked about the specifics of it. You know, I grew up in East Dallas. It was in the South, but it's not like your South. What was it like growing up in Denham Springs? I looked it up. There's 10,000 people that live in Denham Springs there. There's I believe 600 Hispanic people, which is pretty amazing. Can you explain Denham Springs to people?
Yeah, it's just a small southern town.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple life. You know, most people, they go to high school, they end up working in the plants or working in construction or some kind of industry that's related to the Mississippi River. And for me, that's not particularly what I wanted, so I took a different path. But really good people, really solid community, a lot of strong families, a lot of good things going on there. Not a lot of crime, very safe. Not particularly where I want to live my life, just due to opportunities I have in other places, but definitely a place that I would call a good town with really solid, good people.
Isn't it interesting? They're interesting, the things you take with you from home and the things you leave, right?
1,000%.
There's things like, even with my parents, who I love very much, I grew up in a stable 2-parent household. I graduated from high school in the same house that I went to kindergarten in. And I'm, super thankful for that. But there's also things that you see from home and you're like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. It's interesting, those things that you take away from home.
I completely agree with you. You know, I always tell people one of the most important parts of networking, whether you're in Miami, LA, or on a yacht in Dubai talking to a billionaire, is don't forget to bring your boots with you in your suitcase.
Sure.
And what I mean by that, and what that means to me, is don't leave that piece of you out that's from South Louisiana for me.
Right.
And for somebody else, that could be Oregon or some flyover state somewhere. But the reason I think that's so important is because so many people bend themselves to what they believe that other people want from them. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, when you do that, people feel it on you. They feel you trying to conform to them, and they can't fall in love with who you actually are. And essentially, you're holding your breath in that scenario, and it will eventually come out who you are. So you may as well be that person and be proud of it, because it will be the impactful thing that makes you different and makes you unique and makes you your own man when you're in any situation. So
how do you decide? Because I'm sure there's a lot of things you left behind, right? And aren't going back to. How do you know when? Because it seems like you didn't want to stay there forever. So how did you know what to take with you and what to leave behind?
Well, just like any place you ever go to, there are the charming things about where you're from, and then there's the not so charming things about where you're from. So for example, in this case, Southern gentleman, yes sir, yes ma'am, please let me open that door, all of those things. And then there's degenerate redneck.
Yes.
Which you leave at home or wait until the coast is clear to pop a beer with whoever that may be. So it's being situationally aware. You know, I've been in situations where just being a Southern gentleman and having that little bit of draw on my voice has been very helpful. But I've also been in a situation where I'm on a yacht in Dubai, literally. This is a real story, by the way. I'm in a yacht in Dubai with this gentleman from Australia who is a legitimate billionaire. And we're messing around on the boat talking. Me and Tristan are going back and forth, and we play Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Yeah.
And you would have thought it was Christmas morning when he heard that violin. The next thing you know, me, Tristan, and this individual are slapping the table, singing every word to Devil Went Down to Georgia together. And in that moment, maybe that is a little bit more on the redneck side of the spectrum.
Yes.
But it was also pure.
Right.
And it was also real. That song meant something to him, meant something to me, and meant something to Tristan in that moment. And so I think you have to pick and choose the times where it is most appropriate to bring that side of you out, but I don't think you should ever make the mistake of leaving that part of you that is from home back at home. You have to bring it with you.
You mentioned something. There's issues sometimes when I want to build comfort where I go back to my North Texas accent.
Yeah.
And they can hear they're like, oh, I heard that just came out there. When I met my most recent girlfriend, we met. She's from Arkansas. I was like, okay, I'm going to talk Southern again because the military kind of beat it out of me where I didn't have an accent when I got out. But that's one thing I definitely agree with. The other thing is SEC football. That has been something that has closed a lot of deals.
You're talking about religion.
Yes, you're talking about religion.
You're talking about religion.
When it comes to things like that is another thing where I've seen, Texas high school football. There's a couple of things you take with you that are really helpful as far. I know some people use golf in order to network with other people, but it's like a different tool for a different tool set. I don't talk like that when I'm talking to somebody about the military. It's different, but you're right. There's different things you take away from Southern Louisiana.
Yeah, it's basic rapport building as well.
Yeah.
It's like if that's the part of you that's different, being from the South, then it can be charming in that way. But then also, if you understand where the other person's from, you're always looking for that conduit to something that you guys see eye to eye on, something that'll spark you. Particularly for me, I look for it in a non-business subject.
Yeah.
Where, like, if I'm trying to network with somebody, probably the last thing I'm going to talk to them about is business. I want to know about them. What is it that drives them? SEC football is a thing. Yeah. Where it's a movie or car or a watch that he might have on that you can discuss why you like a certain kind of watch or certain thing, I think is really important because it humanizes the situation. A lot of people, especially high net worth people I've found, are so used to people coming in and wanting to take from a transactional place.
Yeah.
And they don't get treated, not only do they not get treated like a human in that way, but they don't have anybody come across their path that treats them like a normal person.
Yes.
That can cut up with them, make a joke, take the risk to make a joke because they're on such eggshells because who that person is, that person doesn't even get to experience the normal things that would happen in a relationship amongst friends.
Yeah, that is interesting. When you talk about somebody who's like a billionaire and all the time they're around people who just constantly tell them yes.
Yeah.
It's like being a hot chick, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes, yeah, it's like that
in
too.
A lot of ways it is. I actually compare networking to women in many circumstances. So imagine this. Imagine you have a 10 out of 10 smoking hot, beautiful woman, model. Everybody treats her a certain way. And you have a billionaire, let's say, or somebody with ultra high net worth that everybody treats a certain way. In my opinion, being the person that will treat them like a human all the way down to the level where you can cut up and pick at them will create a scenario where you can almost skip certain parts of having to see them multiple times. You can become close friends with them almost in one night because now in his mind, you're now in the category of saying things to each other that he and his buddies from college used to say to each other.
Yes.
Right. And so that, if you can find a way to get in there respectfully, and there's ways to test the waters to know if you're there yet with that person, because you can also take the risk of offending them.
Yes.
If their ego's too big. But if you can slip in and understand the interaction and have the emotional intelligence to understand where you are, you can make that joke. And that can be the difference between you seeing that person again or him wanting to see you again and maybe in the future talk about business. I always say when it comes to business, I want it to be their idea.
Okay, yeah.
And the same thing for a photo. I never asked to take for a photo for anybody. But I will tell you this, if put in the right scenario and the bond is close enough, it will be their idea.
Yeah.
And so that's what you want to do. Same thing with a beautiful woman. She's so used to people sitting her down, catering to her needs in all these different ways. The first thing you want to be able to do is knock that wall down and be that one person, that one man that treated her like a human being, or even a friend, I would say. And people are like, oh no, you end up in the friend zone. Women can't help if they're attracted to you. If you can break that wall, make her laugh, be friends with her, almost insinuate that, she might be a friend, it will be her chasing you back.
Right.
Hey, I'm gonna ask you about this because we had this discussion before, and you're absolutely right. Like, you can be so attractive to a woman and put her in the friend zone. In often cases, you can even be more attractive. The concept of this, right? If I recommend guys have a ton of women in their life that you put in the friend zone, because what happens is they compete for your attention. They get you into really cool places. Like I just walked up on stage for Rufus the Soul the other day, and I took a bunch of girls up there with me. They compete for your attention. They give you access, and they calibrate you. Like the girl of your dreams. If you don't have the status to get the girl of your dreams, what if you like almost mimic that avatar and you meet a bunch of girls that are like that, but maybe they're married or a friend of a friend, and you kind of find out, okay, where do these girls go? How do they act? Whatever. Anyway, one thing I was saying is like if your girlfriend though has a bunch of guy friends, it's a problem, but it's a problem because of the same fucking reason. Like it's like I'm describing the problem from both sides, but here's the issue. It's not the guys who hit on your girlfriend. They actually aren't the problem. Girls know how to cast away men who hit on them all the time because they're doing it all the time. It's the guy friends that she has that don't hit on her that are the problem. And you understand where I'm going with this?
1,000%. I always say you absorb women, you don't chase them.
Yes.
And that takes me to a point I'd like to make. I was reading something the other day about the difference between a jiu-jitsu white belt and a black belt. And the article was talking about the main difference is that the white belt goes in and goes for the choke immediately. The practitioner, the one who really has game, waits and waits and waits and waits until he's in a position to where he doesn't have to put any effort at all, and then it's just sleep. And I would say that you could do the same thing in networking and in a situation with a beautiful woman. She's so used to every man going straight for the number, straight to sexual escalation, straight to foreshadowing the possibility of them having sex. Be the guy that's there, and she's like, he's not hitting on me yet. He's not. Next thing you know, she drops her hands, and then, boop.
Yeah.
That is actually the way to do it. Because it's actually more wholesome as well, if you think about it. If you go in and you're immediately trying to sleep with this girl, then you basically look at her like a piece of meat. Let's just get that out of the way. And then secondly, you have no idea who this person is. You don't know anything about her.
She hasn't earned a date, or she has not earned your affection.
And it also lowers your status.
Right. And you're telling her that you don't have to earn any kind of connection with me for us to sleep together. And
so you're rewarding her just for existing, essentially.
Guys, consider how outside of the reality this is. She is earning the right to sleep with you. Think about that one more time.
Which means, in a nutshell, that you have flipped that dynamic from every other dynamic she's ever had in her life. And again, networking, and be the guy that walks up to the high net worth individual, shakes his hand, looks him dead in the eye, has a normal conversation with him, and he can feel that you're comfortable in it. And that you don't want anything from him, and that you're completely yourself. And he's going to be like, this is the one person that I've spoke to. There's something about that person. They won't even know what it is. The girl will not even know what it is. But it'll be that something there that's different that will make them want to pursue you instead of you pursuing them. I look at pursuing women like a magnet. The more you pursue, the more it goes away. You want to create gravity. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. I mean this in networking and when you're dealing with females. Like
it's a one-to-one correlation.
It is truly almost the same thing with different subject matter. That's it. So I think a lot of people forget this. They go straight in for it. They think it's their last opportunity, or they're so sporadic, like a white belt, that they go immediately for the thing that they want, when it could be that they attract it. And if you don't take anything away from what we're saying, it would be that you have to attract it in your own different way.
I guess what were some instances, or one instance maybe, where you started learning these lessons? Because you seem to know this intuitively. Obviously, Mike and I teach to a lot of guys, but you know this from years of experience. So what were the instances that made you learn these lessons early on?
I will tell you, it's actually been retrospective. I did naturally have these abilities. It wasn't until I started having to talk about them that I had to go back down the time track of my life and say, okay, what was it that allowed me to create this relationship with this person? I intuitively knew it. So it was just natural EQ at first. But then when I have to explain it to somebody, that's when I really had to dissect it. You know how they say when you teach something to someone, you actually learn the subject even better?
Peter Drucker talks about that.
Right. So this particular subject for me is one of those subjects. It's like, I've always done quite well in this. And people are now asking me, how did I do it? And I had to stop and really rewind and think, what was going through my mind? Why did that happen? Why was it their idea? Why did I choose not to ask for a photo? Why did I choose not to escalate with this woman, or escalate in business with some individual? And it really took those questions being asked of me before I could dissect it in a way that I would turn around and tell you exactly what I must have been thinking at the time.
Yeah.
But it is across the board. People like separate men and women in so many ways, but in so many ways, men and women are the same. And we talk about women are emotional. Well, I have enough employees to know that grown ass men are also emotional.
Right.
Yeah. So you might have these different avatars of people. On the other hand, I know plenty of women that are very strong and kind of cold, kind of a bit ruthless, hard shells to crack.
You mentioned your management team with your construction company is mostly female.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And my ops manager, Renee, she is a stone cold killer, bro. In fact, she'll have men come in her office and start crying, and she has to tighten them up, cuss them up and down. There are different personalities regardless of gender. Everybody, we have souls, right? I do believe there's some strong-souled women in this world.
Of course.
For sure.
Of course. One of the things I talked about with Jeremy Minor, and I talked about this with Austin Denham, was the concept of the similarities at the highest level between business and dating, which is something you just mentioned before. Yeah. You get to this point where, one of the funny things is often I'll go in some social situation and there'll be some guy that I've always wanted to meet. I'll go up and shake his hand and I'll be with a girl I just met. And I'll introduce the two of them together, and they don't know that I just met them. Right. And it becomes like Euclidean geometry, where it's like because A equals B and B equals C, then C equals A. So they just see like this guy I just introduced him to a playmate, and I just introduced her to a billionaire. So who the fuck am I? Yeah. And that's an incredible, we call it value arbitrage. The connector, that connector role is another thing that you can do. But what is that? That is networking and dating at the same time.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. But when you get to the highest level, that highest level of persuasion, it's so funny. If you ever read Oren Klaff's book, Pitch Anything, he talks about destroy beta behavior. I'm like, for pitching a business idea, he says destroy. That is pick up fucking dating talk that he's using.
And maintain a high status frame.
He goes the beta behavior thing, and then the high status frame. Jeremy Minor talks about that. That's low status behavior. This is exactly dating shit that he's talking about. And then the other one, Oren Klaff talks about is eradicate neediness. Like that is the most dating shit I've ever heard. Yeah. But it's like when you get to this highest level, because what does that mean, right? Dr. Buss's next book is going to be on prestige. He's also writing a book. He just told me, he wrote me 2 days ago and told me he's writing a book called The Patriarchy Delusion. So he's like, these books, he understands in the concepts of evolutionary psychology that we are basically individuals, men and women, who are attuned to status. Maybe women slightly more attuned than men, but men also attuned to status, like being able to pick out status with other people. And then in the dating context, it's the same thing, right? The connection that you make and all this kind of stuff. And like you said before, having a ton of female friends, it's incredible. They just get you in everywhere. They introduce you to everywhere, even if you're not dating them. It's just just an incredible thing. One thing I did want to talk about is you talk about the authenticity of being from Southern Louisiana and authenticity in general. And one thing that I really did appreciate the first time we met is that you didn't feel comfortable being a business coach or coaching any business stuff until you had $1 million net worth in the bank. You understand a lot of people right now are coaching and they're not doing that.
Yeah.
Can you go into the authenticity?
So that was my thing. Was I was in my 20s and I saw how many people were doing very well on YouTube.
Yeah.
And if I'm being completely honest, I looked at my personal hand that I was dealt, where my skill sets were, where I feel like I was gifted, and I'm like, I would do very well in that world.
Yeah.
And I really have a passion for business. So if we were to end this podcast right now and go talk about business, I could talk to you about it all night. I deeply, deeply enjoy the subject. It lights me up inside. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
However, at that time, I told myself that I had to become a liquid millionaire, cash in the bank, before I would ever go out and start teaching courses or teaching people how to make money. Well, it just was not that time. And I always say this, I made goals for 30 at 24 at a time that I was not qualified to make those goals. Because I didn't understand the pain and the things that I would have to go through and learn and achieve, and the skills and the disciplines that I would have to get to be able to put myself in that position. I thought it was going to be substantially easier than it was. And so for me, I remember thinking when I was, I guess 30, 31, it was like, why did I pick this? And it wasn't until probably 35 when I started making the videos that I understood it. And what really helped me, I believe, truly, is that because I waited, not only was I more confident when I walked in the room, when I met Rolo, when I met Myron, when I met you, I believe that these people saw that in me and they're like, this guy built a real business in the real world. It's actually legit. Let me put him on my platform. And in my honest opinion, that's why I grew so quickly. And so it's like I had all this internal growth online as like who I was becoming. So when I finally did step out and make my first video, the people that had been making videos for a very long time gave me opportunity, not because of my platform size, but because of the person I had become in the process of waiting.
Right.
And so I believe truly you shouldn't be able to coach business unless you can prove on a balance sheet or personal financial that you have achieved a certain amount of success in said area on top of that. And there's a lot of people out there now, they can buy a course, regurgitate a course, and make a lot of money teaching you business. And I don't particularly think that's the right thing to do, but that's not for me. That's for baller busters to handle, and I'll step away. So it is what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys are like just falling for that now. I guess like you obviously have like most of your audience is probably going to be guys looking up to you, younger than you. I guess how do you prescribe them on who to take the right advice from? Because let's be real, there's a lot of scammers out there. There's a lot of people pretending to be someone that they're not. How do you like maintain that authenticity, but also guide people in the right direction on who to take advice from?
You know what?
Bullshit out there.
Yeah, you know what I think is really tricky about it is that there's guys renting Lambos and there's guys that own them. There's guys that are, you know, faking a certain lifestyle or faking having certain things. And one thing I do dislike very, very much actually about the whole space and the scenario is very much a peacocking contest. And like, and look, we all have to do it to some degree.
Sure.
Like, you do it with the women. I might do it talking about women or cars or traveling or all these different things. But in my mind, it's like, okay, well, you're up against somebody that's faking it. At least you can show it enough where hopefully that kid buys your stuff and doesn't buy the kid that has CEO University at 21 years old.
Yo, the thing you talk about with the $1 million, I was so insecure when we first started this business. And like, you'll see, like, that's part of the reason why there's so much video evidence of me with 30, 40 girls is because I had been watching, you know, no offense to these guys, but I've been watching dating coaches for 15 years who like had never been with a 6 in their entire life, like sitting there trying to tell people. And we're laughing because it's true. It's like one of these things, like when we all look back, at that time period, you never saw these guys with hot girls. And I was like, man, it's not that I wanted to flex. It's just like, I really didn't want to be in that category.
Right.
I really didn't want to. And that's why, what's the first thing I did with Rollo? As I took him to my birthday party with 54 girls. And the first thing I did with you was took you to the bikini competition because I couldn't have people thinking that this wasn't real. And it wasn't because of me. It was because of the social dynamics that I had discovered. I'm not special. There's nothing special about me. But there was social dynamics I discovered. And then I was able to teach to other people. And because success leaves clues, when I hear you talk about putting up the buildings and your 300 doors, is that what you have now?
We're at 400.
400 doors.
400
okay.
doors now.
When you explain this to me, everything from I know about success and from me talking to other people that are big into real estate, it's very clear to me that you were telling the truth. I mean, I've also ridden in your Lamborghini and stayed at your place. So I know this to be the case.
One of them.
Yeah, one of your places, exactly.
You know what I'll say? I respect, Justin, I respect that you never actually post, because you could have done this years ago. I respect you didn't post the rolls or a Lambo or anything like that until you bought one.
Yeah.
I respect that.
Yeah.
Because you could have been doing that from day one, but you didn't.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess there's a lot of things I could do. I'm not really a big fan of the flexing, but I am well aware that there's two things. There is a return on flex, and also that if I don't market in some way, then the guy that actually is faking it,
it's so true,
will get those people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, I feel like I'm doing a disservice to the people that would have bought from me, but bought from him and then got fucked.
Dude, I'll give you two great examples of this. Myron is doing Overwatch. Have you seen he's streaming on Overwatch now? And people are like, dude, why are you playing video games online? You're Myron Gaines. And he goes like, because the streamers who are doing this right now are giving men terrible fucking advice. And at least if I'm in this space, I can change the narrative of what's going on here. Because most of the Twitch streamers are like extremely politically liberal. The other part was Wes Watson. Wes, he's very open. He's like, I'm showing massive amounts of materialism because I know that these bangers who get out of prison, like this is what they relate to. And if I can change someone's life, because dude, he pulled up at Fresh and Fit with two Phantoms and one Bugatti. No, two Phantoms and a Bugatti. It was crazy. Like, he had his drivers driving the Phantoms, and he drove the Bugatti in the middle, and he had a video crew. This shit was crazy. And like, from my standpoint, is like, I don't really want that much ostentatious views of wealth, but he's not wrong. Like, a lot of people are going to pay attention that wouldn't have paid attention before. And if you have a really good message, then it's responsible for you to go ahead and promote that message, because the competing messages, they could lead people down a wrong path, right? And the other thing you were saying before about having the liquid million net worth before you did it, what a lot of guys are doing is they're taking someone else's business course. I know there's a couple of guys right now who took my course and they've started their own course. And I know because they blocked me. I know who you guys are. They took my course. They copied everything I did. They fucking went and did their own course. Of course, it doesn't work out the same.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And you know what hay turns into after a horse eats it?
Hey.
Shit.
It turns into shit.
It turns into shit.
Hey.
So, hey. But it's so true. You see somebody and they'll come out with your exact same course. They took your course, and then 6 months later, they are now Michael Sartain.
Yes.
But they're not even a Czech Cola version of Michael Sartain.
Yeah.
But when they rent a Lambo and maybe hire some girls to show up, then all of a sudden the kid or the young man who's making this financial decision could accidentally pick the wrong person.
Yeah.
And then there you are in a situation where he can't help the individual, or he can't or won't be able to help the individual that spent the money in the way that you do.
Yeah.
And so it's a very tricky, kind of slippery slope that I've even had to struggle with a little bit, because there's been times where it's like, man, I'm from South Louisiana. You grow up, be humble and all these other things. But I'm going to tell you, I say this all the time, pisses people off. Humble don't fucking pay either.
Yes.
Humble does not pay. And as much as I hate to say that, it is true. Yeah. It's absolutely true. And there's plenty of examples of people that have been very non-humble and done very well because of it. So it's an interesting dynamic that you have to deal with internally when you do content.
Grant Cardone is probably the furthest reach to this. Have you ever seen the videos where it's just one car after another? He's just got tons. He's just showing all this stuff, and he goes, I got me a G-Wagon. All these rappers got a G. And he's talking his Louisiana accent. Right. And then you're listening to it, and then you understand, it's like, why is he does videos to piss you off. He says things to piss you off. He was talking about, who's the guy talking about pay off all your debt? He goes, yeah, that's a great example. Dave something.
Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey. He goes, yeah, that's a great example if you want to be poor the rest of your life. I was like, holy fuck, bro. He just fucking nuked Dave Ramsey.
Have you ever seen the clip where he's like, if I'm making $400,000 a year, I'd be ashamed of myself as a father?
Yeah, he goes, oh, I remember back when I was making $3 million a month. Fucking loser. Fucking, it's like, it's so funny. And then my favorite one is the Brad Lee story. Have you ever tell you this one? He goes, Brad hits him up. He goes, man, I see your fucking face on my Facebook all the time. Like, dude, this is too much. You're going to have to tone it down or I'm going to split off. And Grant Cardone says something to the effect of, you don't buy from me anyway, motherfucker, and hangs up the phone on him. And like Brad had a piece of, like, this was one of, like, there was a joint venture they did together. But it's just so funny when you hear that stuff. But you're absolutely right. There is like a middle ground. For me, for those of you who don't know, here's a surprise. You join MOA. A lot of guys join Men of Action because the girls. That's why they join. Right. That's why I get their attention. I'm fully aware of this. A few of them get my attention because of the evolutionary talk that we talk on the show. But most of them, I understand it's because of the girls. Then they come and do the program, and the program's 15% girls. The rest of the program is leadership. It's entrepreneurship. The rest of the program is evolutionary studies, event planning. Yeah. The rest of the program is winning mindset, changing your mindset. And they're like, didn't expect that for that what to be. But then you come to the realization that all of us has come to, which is then you work on those things, and then guess what you get at the end?
Girls.
The girls. Yeah. At the end, you get the girls.
And what is it called? Selling them what they want, giving them what they need.
Give them what they need.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that, whether it's the girls to get them into the course to make them a better man, because we all know that PUA is bullshit. You build the man that you are, and then women come to that.
Right.
Which is completely different from. And then what Michael teaches that I really like is how to create this atmosphere where you're just amongst that scenario. And if I'm not mistaken, you are at the highest level because it's your event. And that's what I think is really cool about what Michael has done. Actually, I want to say the boys asked me one time, is Michael's legit? I said, I'll tell you this. I've been to his shit. His system is pretty bad. It's legit.
Yeah, you're saying Tristan and Andrew asked me.
Yeah, Andrew and Tristan asked me about it. They're like, what is Michael? Has he got games? He got girls? I'm like, yeah, man. And I can't argue with his system. And they're like, touche.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a pretty interesting thing. I think a lot of people have a hard time with the whole, like, they feel like it's too much work. And I think there's also a lot of misconception with the idea that masculinity means to go direct, right? You understand, like, they should compete for your attention. We just talked about this. They should work to try to get on a date with you. One other thing I want to talk about, which I love, was it sounds shallow when you say we talk business all the time. To other people, it sounds shallow. But the reality is when you and I talk business, I'm thinking, this is all I'm thinking, what problem can I solve for Justin? When I care about someone, I communicate that to them by solving problems for them. Does that make sense? And I think a lot of people, all they hear is money, and they don't realize, like, you know Dan Fleischman. When Dan and I talk, we're just trying to solve problems for one another. I'll ask Dan a question. He's like, well, then here's how you scale this IRL program, these live events, exactly, yada, yada, yada. You and I have discussions on low ticket offer, et cetera. And in my mind, it's not money. It's like, how can I make Justin's life easier? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, 1,000%. It's like, that's why I'm so hard pressed and will not come off my point. We're not friends unless we're making money together.
Yeah.
Even if it's indirectly, like in the way we do it. Because if I'm really your friend, I want to see you create not only the best life for you, but for your wife, your kids, your legacy, everything that's going to come. So what kind of friend am I if I'm not an asset pushing you in that direction? I'm not here to play fantasy football with you or try to get you to come drink a beer. I'm going to try to get you drunk? No, we need to make money. We need to talk about making money because I want to see you have an incredible life. And if I'm not doing those things, I'm not a friend at all, am I? No. Friends are allies. Friends are assets. They're not people that you waste your time with. If I want to waste time, I do it with a woman. I'm being 100.
There's the clip. There we go.
Well, whoops.
That's beautiful.
That's going to piss some people off.
Here's another one. I love this. You were worried about going bankrupt, and you talked to like some of your business mentors, and he goes, son, if you don't go bankrupt at least once every 4 years, you ain't doing nothing.
Yeah, man. I was like 28 years old, and we had built the company, and we're going through scaling issues that created cash flow problems. And I pulled my mentor aside. I was in San Diego, a guy named Mike Reynolds out of Colorado, systems contractors. I love you, Mike. Anyway, so I pull him aside, and I'm like, look, and I was really embarrassed to tell him this is like my hero. And I said, listen, I think I'm going to go bankrupt. And I'm expecting him to like tell me how I'm supposed to get out of this situation. And he looks me in the eye, he had a whiskey in his hand. He says, son, if you don't think you're going to go bankrupt about every 4 years, you ain't doing shit anyway. Slaps me on the shoulder, walks away. I can hear him. I'm sitting like this. He's now behind me, and I hear him go, see you at the bar. And I'm just like, and I smiled.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had 1 million pounds lifted off my back.
Sure.
Because if you are actually tough and you are actually bad, there's two things I felt in that moment. The first thing I felt was the release of the fact that even my hero had gone through that. So the weight of what I was dealing with as far as my identity and thinking that I had not worked hard enough or that I wasn't good enough to do it was gone. Then I felt like one of the big G's. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like all of these guys has done it. And that same night, I had actually talked to another mentor of mine, and he told me he'd gone bankrupt 4 times. Yeah. And this guy was a multi-millionaire. He said, shit, son, you just start again. Yeah. And in many ways, it's true. And that's what always leads me to talk about staying in the same fight. Because let's say I would have done that. Let's say that would have happened to me. I still had the same client list. I'd have had the same employees. I'd have had my same relationship with the vendors as long as I was able to pay them off in the transaction. And to be quite honest, I would have had the same business. I would have just got a clean start at it. And I didn't see it that way because it's a lot easier to look at somebody else that's going through something. But when you're actually in it yourself, you feel like it's the end of the world. You think you're the only one that's ever gone through it.
A breakup too.
Same thing. Bro, same thing.
Everyone, when they're going through the breakup, it's the most embarrassing shit ever. But your friends are like, bro, this is the greatest thing. We're going to go out and fucking party again. This is the greatest shit ever. Everyone's happy for you.
And the heartbreak.
Yes. And the heartbreak.
And
exactly.
The heartbreak part.
Yeah.
You can't see that in 2 years you're going to be over it.
Yeah. Or you know what the other part is? So there's a couple of the lessons here. Number one, having a mentor that's clearly knows more than you, that you would at least listen to, that could assuage you of this feeling. When you consider in Bilzerian's book where he talks about falling in love with Sophia Beverly, falling in love with Lauren Blake, and you know these women, and then they hurt him with Jessa Hinton, and they hurt him. By the way, I don't know if he even names their last name in the book. I think I just doxed all that. He does. Okay, yeah. Okay, I was about to say. But yeah, I'm friends with all three of them, and it's really interesting for someone like Dan, who's been with thousands of women, he still gets heartbroken. Someone like your buddy, you expected him to be ashamed of you because you were going bankrupt. In Men of Action, one of the things we do, often we turn the recording off, and what do we talk about? If a guy is thinking about taking his own life, when a guy has been cheated on, often we have that type of situation, and we discuss it with them because I want to let them know, hey, man, this sucked for me, too. This is something I went through. I tell that, I'm not going to say it right now, but the Jamaica story. I tell that story.
Always.
I tell the story all the time to just kind of.
But that's also why, going back to what we talked about earlier, where you have all these people giving advice who are not qualified to give advice. In those situations, that's how you know who to take advice from. Because if someone's really gone through it, you're going to know. Yeah. Right? And that's why, like, I mean, from my perspective, seeing you guys are much older than me, I almost don't take advice from any men under 30.
Yeah.
So you haven't if you haven't had the experience, and when people have a mentor, they can very easily see quickly that you don't have that experience.
Have you guys seen the video of Chris Williamson kind of not almost like scolding Hamza, where he was like, dude, you did it.
I saw it.
You saw it?
I
So
saw
the
it.
longest time, all you were doing was like you had the alpha way to sit, the alpha way to talk. Though everything was perfect, so that when things went bad, everyone was ready to fucking dunk on you. Whereas for me, I'll tell you, I came to Las Vegas and would get dunked. I got kicked out of so many goddamn tables, and I had the girl I was sitting there talking to and thought she was the girl of my dreams, and she just walked off with a fucking DJ or a coke dealer. This happened to me so many times. I got dunked on. Dude, I went to college with one of the guys on The Bachelorette. Okay, he hadn't been on the Bachelorette at the time. We would go to parties together, and I didn't understand that women like gave that much of a shit about looks. They wouldn't even look at me. I didn't even understand these things. The first time I was like considering playing college football, and I would go out there and like, I am not fast enough to fucking play with these guys. When you can admit that these things happen to you, then I think it makes you more relatable, because a lot of times if it's like, even in Andrew's situation, if Andrew gives someone some advice of like, well, I don't have a Bugatti. Like, you know what I'm saying? So he has to make it relatable. Same thing you do. It's like my origin story. I'm from South Louisiana, right? Those things have to be there too. So they have to see both ends of the spectrum. This is me when I had a bunch of success, and then this is me when I started off. You asked me just the other day, you said, Michael, do the nightclubs intimidate you? When did that go away, right? Then I had to tell you, yes, it did. When I first got here, I was like, God damn, man, that's fucking Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton, like, what the fuck? Dude, there's my favorite. There's Pat Mahomes, like, right here. Like, what's going on? I can't get up there. What's going on? And then everything after a while changes, and the relatability of that growth story, which is something really great with you. I love one of the stories you tell. You kept going to a site, giving your resume over and over again. This is 15 years ago, I believe, and you kept going there over and over again. And then eventually they gave you a shot, and then you faked the amount of funds you had in order to take a test so that you could end up being certified.
Yeah, what happened was I went to that job site multiple times until they finally gave me a job. There's a big story to that, but basically what I did is when I got the job, I didn't need that amount of money. They were actually paying me quite well. I was 24. Yeah. And so I went to the bank and I auto drafted it all into this account of like 80% of it. I lived off the per diem. And then that $10,000 net worth is what I had to have to apply for my contractor's license.
Yeah.
But that was just my residential, and I wanted also to have my commercial. So I moved the money to another bank account and applied for the commercial with that same money. Looking back, I always joke that I'm not sure if I had to do that, but that's what I fucking did. Yeah. And we got it done, man. And that was a whole lot of metal buildings ago. A lot of steel been hung since then.
What would you say? So the other thing I think you and I both agree is the first million is the hardest.
Yeah, you know what I always say also about the first million.
Yeah.
Is that there's more happiness between 0 to 1 million than there is from 1 million to 10 million.
Because
I can tell you, because most of the things that are actually going to make you happy are inside the 0 to 1 million.
Yeah.
So, for example, do you remember that time in your life where you didn't know if you could scan your card or not, or if you could cover dinner?
Yeah, I was in
Knowing
college.
you can cover dinner at any point, at any time, in any restaurant, no matter how many people are at the table, order whatever you want, get entrees, get drinks, run it up, and you don't have to worry about it. That's a 0 to 1 million problem, normally.
Yeah.
Knowing that you can go in the store and swipe and get any custom suit, buy a watch, get a car, well, it's a 0 to 1 million problem.
Yeah.
You know, and so with most of that, and that is also where most of that happiness curve is going to be. I can tell you, when I was from 0 to 1 million versus 1 million to 10 or to a 20 million, $30 million net worth, bro, like your happiness does not change that much.
Yes.
It really doesn't. In fact, the only thing that is not there in that equation from 0 to 1 million, 1 million to 10 is status. That's the only thing that's actually just not for sale. And then understanding a frame and understanding a women in game. But status kind of pushes those things. And lucky enough, we live in a world where you can work hard enough to gain fame.
Yes.
If you really think about it, really, if you just simply work your ass off and do not quit on social media, and then you get the right teams and the right systems running, you can now in 2024, and probably as far as back as I would say YouTube, actually earn status.
Yes.
First time ever.
Yeah.
Used to that was not a thing. Now
that can be more powerful than the money you would have earned anyway.
It can. The status can actually, if you were to tell a young man at 25 that he could have status or $1 million, I would take the status, because you can monetize far more than $1 million out of the status. But the status is not for sale. You can either earn it or you can't. I mean, that's basically it. Or that you already had it through being an athlete or something else.
Yeah.
But we are in this weird time in history where if you can get the status, you'll always be able to earn the money.
Yeah.
Always.
Isn't it crazy? Yeah, the way
It's
that
the craziest
things change.
thing.
Not letting one go too far in front of the other, I think, is important. We've seen the guys who are the Twitch streamers who are broke, living on their mom's couch, but they're famous. They can't make anything stick. And then we've also seen the guys who are super wealthy, and then they end up like just paying girls on seeking arrangement, because that's the only way they know how to get attraction. They have to buy attraction from women. Whereas what the best idea is, and I've heard Andrew talk about this, and I've heard Dan talk about this, which is the concept of using money to create a reality to where not only are women competing for your attention, but those women are also becoming attracted to you. And so you don't want to use one without the other. You don't want to go too far in one direction.
I completely agree. I was talking to a young man the other day. He's actually pretty well known. I'm not going to say his name, but he's big podcast. Mm-hmm. He's done really well. He's young. How old are you?
24.
Yeah, so he's a little bit older than you, like a year or two max.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm hearing these questions that he has for me, and I'm kind of smiling, and I'm thinking to myself, he doesn't realize it today that he has all the cards.
What do you mean?
He's young, he's handsome, he's tall, and he has status, and he makes a decent amount of money. Mm-hmm. And so what he's going to learn over the next 5 to 6 years is, number one, that he is the one that's actually the prize in the situation. And it's probably best that his money and his status kind of ladder up. Yeah. So he doesn't go from, a cold bucket of water to boiling hot, because he's not gonna be able to handle the acceleration of it.
If you're rich and you don't have game, you're a target. Do you guys, fellas out there, for those of you who are watching, the first time you make 100, 200, 300 grand a year, or you start flipping homes and you actually have some real cash in your account, if you have no game, you have negative game. You're a fucking target, bro.
I feel like richer guys in general struggle with women more than poor guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, from our standpoint, that is something we say.
Hey,
yeah.
let's keep it 100. Let's keep it 100, guys. Like, we're in a very special situation to be talking about this subject right now.
Sure. Yeah.
I just walked in with a gentleman who's 70 years old, who got in touch with me through somebody he knows from a senator he knows, and she's running. She put him in touch with me, and he's here right now. Won't say his name, won't say what state, but he's here with me because he slept with a woman 40 years younger than him. He's been sending her crypto money. Now there's a multi-million-dollar bag sitting on his phone that she is in control of, and we're about to take it back away from her.
Fuck yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Let's do it.
Insanity.
But what a great example of the situation. So let me get this straight, my friend.
Yeah.
She's 30, 40 years younger than you. She's telling you she loves you through Facebook and to send her crypto. And now her mom has her aunt has breast cancer. And now he's a pig and all these things. I'm reading the text messages and I'm like, this is a great example of a guy who worked really hard, got in a really good financial position, was a target, and now we're going to help him get out of it. But even when we walk away today, he's still going to be a target.
Yeah. Because if he doesn't have game, he's always going to be a target. Yeah.
And in all fairness to him, he grew up in a time where he didn't have the information that the young men today have.
Hold on. Perfect segue. You said something that I had not thought about. My dad passed away 18 years ago. And you said something that was so great. It's like, you can't blame your dad for not knowing all this stuff. It's so true. Yeah. It's like the idea that like my dad had his limited experience going to Southern Methodist University and joining the Peace Corps. That was his limit, working for the FDIC. That's his limited experience. And my grandfather, being a professor, like that was their experience. For them to teach me about women is just so far out of bounds.
And how could he have?
How could he have? Whereas for me, like all of the experiences I can see from other people online and the people I meet, and then living in Vegas, which is like just accelerator, you know, as far as
Miami's
attraction.
the same,
In Miami, Brickell's the same way. Yeah, it's very similar. In those situations where you see, there's no way they could have known.
Yeah, and so that's my message to the young men. And my message was exactly this. Be graceful with your father because you have information that he did not have.
Yes.
And so I support the fact that you want to be an entrepreneur. And I even support the fact that you might want to go a different direction than your father did. But don't you dare judge him for working a 9-to-5 job, breaking his back, doing everything in his power to put a roof over your head, food on your table, and that cell phone in your fucking hand so you could go get the consciousness that he had never had available to him.
Yeah.
Be graceful with your father. You have information he did not have.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important thing to say to young men because they see guys like me, they see guys like you, they see Tate, they see Myron, Walt, they see all these people and they're like, well, why didn't my dad do that? And then they want to get fresh with their dad about it when their dad thinks that they maybe should go to college or whatever. You need to be respectful, hear what he says. If you want to go your own route, do it. Know that once you're successful going that route, he'll tell you he believed in you all along. He's only guiding you because he loves you. And you have a substantial amount more information than he ever could have imagined. Be graceful.
Yeah.
So I really believe that, truly.
I mean, totally agree, man. It's one of these things where even when you consider a lot of men, so you are 4 times as likely to take your own life, just young men today, as they were before, like young single men, but 9 times as likely if you've been divorced and you've been zeroed out financially. And we see these guys that are putting in these situations and they're over 50, but you remember when they were our age, when they were in their 20s, this information was not available to them. Yeah, they did. And they ran. So, but the world changed and no one told them. There was a software update. The software update was like accelerated hypergamy based on social media and dating apps, but they didn't get the software update. And because of that, now all of a sudden their wife is receiving stimulus that she wouldn't have gotten 40 years ago, and they're not prepared. The vehicle of the marriage was not prepared for this level of stimulus. And so because of that, they end up breaking up, and he doesn't know what to do or where to go. And we can't blame him for that. That's the hard part for them is like, we look at him like, oh man, this guy's a simp and whatever. And it's like, no one could, like, it's not even possible for him to have gotten the information to know what the truth was.
1,000%. And then back to the guy that's waiting in the lobby right now.
Yeah.
Every ounce of programming that the man's 70 years old.
Yeah.
Every ounce of programming this man ever got was exactly in line where she said she loved me. She messaged me every morning, every evening. She said that we're in this together. He believed her because that's the programming he had. He's not a pussy. He's not a bitch. He's not weak.
And
he didn't know any better.
He's probably
you're a product
financially
of your
successful.
environment, right? And that's what the environment taught him.
Yeah. And so he's just an individual where time, and I would say even it could be argued that in the last 10 years, the world has changed probably more than it has changed in the last 100.
And it will be like that successively forever.
Again and again.
Yeah.
You know, you get to looking at the gap between the rich and the poor, AI, social media is not going away.
Yeah.
It's going to continue to compound again and again and again. And in fact, it's compounding at such a rate that things that people used to be able to say 5-10 years ago are now getting them canceled.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy?
Joe Rogan is a great example of that.
You're an example.
Yeah, I am. But I think Joe Rogan's an even better example.
Yeah.
Because when he said the thing, it was socially okay.
Yeah.
Then that changed. And then retrospectively, they have an aha moment where they say, okay, he said this. It was okay to say it then.
Yeah.
We've changed the rules so many times so fast. And that's what's so interesting. Have you ever read The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene?
I have not.
So he talks about zeitgeist.
Okay.
And a zeitgeist is basically kind of a collective of people that were kind of born in the same generation, kind of like the same music, had the same morals, same values. Well, imagine a guy that was born like, what, the 50s? What his zeitgeist looks at the world in the category of romance and honor and money and a handshake and what that means versus having some fake Asian bitch come say, I love you, send a couple of pictures of a photo, fly out, suck your dick one time, and then take all your goddamn money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bro, that wasn't a thing back then. That wasn't a thing in the 70s and the 80s. You can't see this coming.
Yeah.
This man is not weak. This man is literally fighting a war with muskets, and she's dropping bombs with drones.
Yeah.
It's a different game.
So it's one of these things
different game.
where he's evolutionarily adapted to something much older than this, and culturally adapted to something when he was growing up. And so those things are not that they're maladaptations to what he has to deal with today. I want to talk about this.
So
concept.
wait. On that topic though, what do you think is the solution now?
Well, this is what I was going to say before. So one of the things you mentioned this briefly, you touched on this, was the idea. So accountability. Let's talk about accountability. Right. Showing up 15 minutes early to a job interview might get you the job. Showing up 15 minutes late to the date might get you laid. Because one of the situations is it works completely the opposite.
Perfect segue.
It is the concepts of accountability, hard work, determination, logic, and problem solving that make you millions of dollars, solve problems for your friends, and end up with an incredible network of people who count on you. It is leadership qualities of accountability and taking responsibility for everything on yourself. And then you take those same qualities to an incredibly hot woman, and she will fucking destroy you. You will do everything she asks, and she will just hold it against you. And I'm not saying, obviously, in every case that's the case. But what I found is that, like, these men, it's the reason why the guitarist and the artist are crushing it with women, but the chemical biologist is not. It's because the biologist is using logic and reason, the scientific method, and the artist is speaking feelings. And so what happens, again, probably, this is what I mean about the maladaptation. It's like when you're talking to these very attractive women, even this woman, if she's a con artist, there's someone she's fucking back wherever she lives, and that guy's not paying her. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm sure I think we've had this discussion before. Every girl that we know that has a sugar daddy, she's fucking another guy for free. Every
and making fun of the sugar daddy.
And making fun of the sugar daddy.
On this show.
On this show.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah, it's funny, like those skill sets that you talk about, like having to hug, you deal with the problems that your employees have to deal with.
Right.
But you don't do that on a first date with a girl.
No.
There's a difference there in that type of communication.
Yeah, so there's always nuances to different things, and then people think that the old rules still exist. It used to be honor all the way across the board. Now things have absolutely changed. Mm-hmm. And it's a good thing there are people out there that are teaching these things. I actually don't teach them. So I remember when I first started, I would talk about the subject, but I'll never teach you how to pick up a woman. What we're talking about is frame. What we're talking about is being the man that she actually wants to be with. Right. That has nothing to do with a pickup line.
Yes,
I'm a big believer that you could take any of those pickup artists, John, for example, that worm. You could take him. He could send 1,000 women his best pickup line. I could literally send, "Hey, dickhead," and have a better conversion rate than him.
Of course.
All day long.
Yeah, because the backup. And it also goes back to the other thing. Like, I don't know, you've seen this before. If you go to Kindly Myers, Caitlin Runk, some of the biggest models in the world, if you go to fucking Lindsay Payless, Emily Sears.
I already know where you're going with this
and
example.
you say, "Hey, I'm in Men of Action." They're like, "Oh my God, I love you." Like, they're
right.
There's no
hiding it.
There's no hiding for me. You go tell women. You can go to nightclubs in Vegas and they will let you in the club because you're part of my program. Literally, specifically because of that. That is so antithetical to what Pickup did for 15 years. We're in a little secret society. Shh, don't tell anybody what we're doing. Be quiet. Don't tell the women about our lay report. And that kind of thing happened. I'm like, no, bro, there's nothing that I do that's not above board. Have fun. Let's talk about it. But yeah, it's such a great example of, like, internally, when you deal with this stuff, like, are you still the man that she wants to be? Are you consistently faking it, using like these dark triad traits in order for you to get to the point?
And that is my entire point, is that the reason I don't promote pickup at all is because even if you get the girl, she's gonna find you out. So basically,
it's almost like hiring the wrong coach.
Yeah, you manipulated the girl into thinking that you're cool when you're, or that you have something that she wants, whether it be lying about yourself or making her feel smaller, manipulation, in order for her to sleep with you. But then she finds out that you are not in any way the man that she's looking for at any level, and then she leaves you or cheats on you or whatever it is. And then who do you have to blame? Is it the girl, or is it the fact that you tried to manipulate her into believing that you're something that you're not, instead of doing the fucking work that would have brought you not just that girl, but any girl you want? And they're coming to you, and you can live authentically. Yeah. So I'm not a very big fan of people that teach you how to say the right things to a woman. And that is actually not what you do. And what I do like about what you do, and very much respect, is, in my opinion, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's not my course, but you're teaching them how to create an atmosphere where they are, in fact, that person.
Yeah.
They did put that together. And when they buy the course, you're working on everything but getting women and building them into the man they become.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I've seen, look, bro, I've been inside your course.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I think I've been on some calls.
Yeah. You've been on several calls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Been to the events too?
Yeah. It's like 80%, 90%, not even about women at all.
Dude, the funny thing is you were mentioning this. The most underrated pillar in my course is leadership. No, there's no one to pick up teaching leadership content. That it's not even a real thing. But you'll see me walking with like 40 girls. How the fuck do you think?
But hold on.
What?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Leadership, women. Isn't that interesting that she would be attracted to you if you were a good leader? Isn't that interesting? Which has nothing to do with a pickup line, which has nothing to do with making her feel small. Yeah. It has everything to do with being the man that you're supposed to be, which, funny enough, they're attracted to. What an interesting concept, Michael. What is your group called?
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, you remember when we would walk down the staircase?
Yeah,
remember,
I
I'd pose all the girls in the right place. No one talked back to me. You know what I was talking to them? I was talking to them with urgency and love, but I was also talking to them like an offensive coordinator on a football team.
No, I watch it. So he calls a huddle.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can say this or not. You can edit it.
Yeah.
But he calls them all together. He's like, we're about to make this fucking money. You know, it's like all the girls are getting pumped up and shit. I'm like, bro, I really.
Oh, you're talking about the bikini competition.
The bikini competition.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, I think we're about to go on the field.
Yeah.
Like literally, that's what it's like. And everybody puts their hands in and they get after it. And you know what I think is beautiful about that particular situation is some of those girls are not going to win.
Yeah.
But collectively, they're doing this thing together. They're competing against one another, but they're kind of going to war together in the way that Michael puts it. And in that exact moment is leadership. And that's the thing that gets them hyped up. So they hit the stage the right way. They go out the right way. They do their best. The event does its best. It's all leadership. And the same, you could do that with one woman. You know, whether you're talking about future plans or what you're going to do, you know, after dinner, like you have to take the lead. There's so many people out there that wants to put men and women on the same, you know, like they like to share the lead. Men and women do not like to share the lead. A woman will not stay with you if you cannot take the lead. She will find a man that can. That's what will happen. Period. Beautiful. I love that you teach leadership in there.
Yes.
And that is a fucking clip right there.
There it is. It's beautiful. Yeah. No, I take stuff that I learned from the U.S. military. And
Join Men of Action.
Let's get an affiliate code right now. Let's do it. Here we go. So the other thing I want to talk about, I love this quote, is you're excited that life is hard and that you have an unfair advantage. And I love this. I talk about the book with Cindy Meston and David Buss called Why Women Have Sex. And it goes over 237 reasons why women have sex with men. And they were joking. It's like, well, in the beginning of the book, they say, why didn't you write a book called Why Men Have Sex? And they're like, because it would be a pamphlet. It would be very short, very, very few reasons. Because there are fewer reasons why men choose women, but there's one really strong one. Real strong. It's her boobs, her butt, her what, like her facial symmetry, etc. Her looks. That's a really fucking powerful one. In fact, that one has so much power that you could make the argument that the majority of human civilization is fueled from men being motivated by female youth and beauty. But for men, we have so many ways that we can still get on the field. And that's the unfair advantage that you were talking about. You have so many ways. You can go from being someone who is just not naturally attractive to women to being attractive because you have because of biology, you have been given so many ways to attract women.
Yeah. Men can become.
Yes.
You know, so there's a lot of unfair advantages in life, particularly between the genders. One would be that a woman is born and she's dealt a hand that is mostly the value of transaction, which is beauty. And it's not fair that she's 21 years old and you're a guy and you're broke and she can go on a yacht and do all these things and live this certain lifestyle. But what you have to understand as a man is that what's really unfair is that if you get to 35 and all of your shit is like on time and you've built yourself over that 15 years, then you have the massively unfair advantage for life. Where when she hits that wall at 30, 31, and you're 35 and you're getting honestly sometimes more handsome as the years go by and richer and more established with more status, and just all these things start to snowball in your favor. If you choose to do this work, you will live a life that kings could not imagine. And guess what happens to that 21-year-old girl? She hits the wall at 30, and now she has to negotiate with you on your terms in your life, and that is forever, as long as you're not a simp. So it's very unfair for the man in the beginning, but it can become exponentially unfair in his favor if he chooses to take the right path.
Yeah, Homath said, some girls was like, hot women have it easy. He goes, no, hot women have it easier. The high status man has it easy. They're the ones who actually has it easy. Like Sosnick was talking to me. He's like, whenever I go out in Miami, I never have to pay for anything. He's like, ever. Like I go to any club and I just don't have to pay for shit. And it's just, it's really the highest status man. He's given stuff. 50 Cent talks about in Hustle Harder. He goes, when I had no money in my bank account, nobody wanted to give me a loan. As soon as I had $1 million in bank account, somebody else wanted to give me $3 million.
I say that all the time. I tell guys in construction, I'm like, you don't apply for a line of credit when you're broke. You apply for a lot of credit when you are very solvent, have a lot of good cash flow, your AR is under 30 days, and you're just sitting on paper. That's when you ask for money, not when you're broke.
Yeah.
And so abundance does multiply. And you know another thing, if you really think about it, let's say the 1% male, both sexes hate that guy.
Sure.
And there's a reason. So not only is he a threat to other men, but all the women, even the beautiful women, want him to change because they want him to go from being how he is to how they want him to be.
Yeah.
So both sides end up hate you. It's a lonely place, Michael. It's a lonely place.
It's a lonely, lonely place.
With a lot of upside.
Like I've said before, the concept of 3 genders. There's high status men, there's women, and there's low status men.
It's 1,000% true.
Low status men are chasing women. Women are chasing high status men. When women complain about men, they are never complaining about low status men. They are complaining about the guy that they fucked who's sleeping with all these. We did Saucecast a couple weeks ago, and I was asking these girls, what's it like dating in Miami? And they're like, these guys all they care about is their Bugatti, and they're just dating multiple women. And I was like, I guarantee you 99% of men who live in Dade County do not have a Bugatti and are not dating multiple women. It's the ones you're choosing. Right. And so that's the only men. So here's the difference. If a girl is unattractive, I still see her. I do.
Right.
I still see her.
And on the right Tuesday afternoon, you'd sleep with her. always say.
Shout out to college. Yeah. Shout out to college. That's what college is for.
Shout out Tuesday afternoon. Yes. Bro, because to a man, hungry and horny is kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Sure.
You know, like there are situations where I think a man would do it. Like if you're just walking through the mall, minding your own business, and the right 6 or 7 walks up to you and she's like, right now, most dudes are gonna be like, get a room.
Get a room.
Like, hey, bro, it's just how we are. We're disgusting. But
we still see them. My point is, if you saw a woman.
Men are invisible.
But yes, my point. Like, if you saw a woman who was overweight and like older, even a grandma, and she's like, her car is broken down on the side of the road.
Right.
We as men still see them.
Yeah, that's
we still
protect and provide.
We go help them. If a woman was overweight or unattractive and her house is burning down, I'm still going to try to save her. We still see them, even when they're not attractive to us.
1,000%.
But I don't know. There's a clip. I'm still trying to. I saw it once, and it's really interesting. Guy's asking this girl, "What kind of guy do you like?" And she's like, "Well, different kind of guys." And goes, "What about that guy?" And she goes, "I don't see anyone." He goes, "No, the guy right there." And she goes, "You mean the one behind the mailman?" No, the fucking mailman. What? But she didn't.
Shit.
She doesn't see him. That's the difference.
Right.
It's like because women literally don't see that bottom 85% of men. They don't see those homeless men on the street. They don't see the men crying, talking about taking their own lives. They don't see all these guys in the U.S. military who are just living in like Altus, Oklahoma, or fucking Clovis, New Mexico, and there's no women around. They're living at Pope Air Force Base, and there's no women around. And they're doing these things, and like they just don't even see. That's the difference.
They're invisible.
We at least see these women. Yes,
they're invisible. There's another instance of that. An example is like once a man asked a woman, they were on a date.
Yeah,
and he asked her how many men did you see in the restaurant, and she was like. Or he might have asked her in real time, how many men do you see in this restaurant? And she looks up and she counts 1, 2, 3. She got to like 5.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, there must be 20 or 30. And the waiters and the staff were all rolling through, completely didn't see them in any way. And most men walk through this world invisible.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, Dr. Buss tells the story in his TEDx talk where he's like, yeah, these women were sitting there complaining about no eligible men that were around there. Or like, there's no eligible, and we're like, there's waiters and staff here all over the place that are doing. And here's the other one. This is a really good one we should talk about. It is the junior associate attorney who is barely pulling in, like not even $100K a year, and the guy who is at a contractor plumber who's got his own crew and is making $300,000 a year.
They don't care.
And the woman still picks the associate, not realizing have you seen there's one clip of this guy?
I've said this many times on shows.
He comes downstairs one time and he's like showing his son. He goes, well, see, honey, son, this is why I want you to go to college, so that you end up a plumber like this guy. And the guy stands up and goes, bitch, I make $300,000 a year. What are you talking about? And like that's the thing is like women see this potential, and there's this perceived status that comes with the lawyer doctor thing, but a lot of times those guys aren't making as much money as a really good roofer. I know some guys who are roofers who are killing it, bro. Yeah. That is
we put a lot of roof down.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why you tell me to drop out.
I did tell you to drop out of college. I think you should, but you know, it is what it is. You might as well finish now, especially when you skip two years at a time. We thought you were a sophomore. So
I don't know how you just became a senior. That's pretty
how'd you go straight to
I
senior?
No, I mean, I started when
I
first met you guys. I was a sophomore.
Dude, I feel like a year ago I was telling you don't go to college, and now you got the first 3 years knocked out. So I don't know what you did.
It's amazing.
Hauser.
That's incredible. The other thing I want to talk about is this concept of, a few things. The very first thing we ever talked about when I met you was the concept of gentleman game, which is something I do appreciate. I don't see women as adversarial. I definitely, coming from the South like you do, this idea that we're better off together than we are apart. And I think you've said this, I've said this, Sosnick has said this, and I'm trying to remember some other person I heard say this. All of my experiences with women are positive.
Wonderful experience.
The wonderful experience. I prefer the company of women, to be fair. Like my experience with women are positive, and so the idea of gentleman game, how it's misconstrued. Tristan obviously said this too. The idea of gentleman game, where guys are like considering that this is simpy behavior, but no, it's not a misallocation of value. It's an equal exchange of value, but they don't understand how to do it because they aren't coming from a place of confidence. They're using buying a girl a drink and dinner to replace the fact that they cannot generate attraction. And can you talk about like how gentleman game actually works?
Yeah, so to your point, simping is actually just the mis-exchange of value, the unequal exchange of value. But to me, being a gentleman and being the one that opens that door, being the one that's going to cover that bill, being the person that is going to actually be able to tell her she's pretty. And I agree with you completely in every way. It's like, I don't have a beef with women.
Yeah.
And if I had it to do again, on some of these shows, I might have took it a little easier on women. Because one thing I think that we could correct back, or the red pill space at least could correct back, is demonizing women.
Yeah.
There are some really good women in this world.
Yeah.
And I think about, some women I know particularly, one particularly. So I think that there's always going to be room for you to be kind, generous, loving, protect, provide, all of these things inside the framework of you having strong frame and standards that you set, that you hold your ground on.
Yeah, within the framework. That's really important.
Within the framework.
Yeah.
What's really important about and what allows you to be a gentleman is almost the thing that allows you to be gentle with children or elderly people. Yes, you could hurt them, but you're not going to. You have that power to leave her and break her heart or replace her or whatever, but you don't have to talk down to her. You can actually have an honest, pure relationship where you're kind, you cover the bill, you open the door, you do the things a gentleman would do, and she knows that you can also be a gentleman and walk away. And I think that's where the real power is, and what allows you to be a gentleman, really today particularly, is that you are powerful enough to do something about it if, in fact, that exchange gets out of whack.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very important thing to note.
Yeah, I think what's really important for people to understand, because a lot of times when we get like these aspie dudes on the program or whatever, and Oh, it's what? Yeah, just get one. These. Can we get him another water real quick? Thank you, brother.
I'm sorry, bro.
No, don't worry about it. So when we get these like guys who they don't understand binary concepts, like for them it's like one of the two things, like either you hate this or you love this. Does that make sense? They have a hard time with this concept of, like, for instance, I remember one time I said, I don't like Bitcoin above 60K. So guys start saying Michael Sartain hates Bitcoin, and they don't understand this concept. Is like, I can be nice to women, but at the same time maintain a boundary. If you come from a pickup place, it's like never buy a woman a drink. It's like, well, no, dude. If a girl just brings 3 girls home to me, I'm gonna buy her a drink. I don't give a fuck. Right. Like, it's totally fine. Like, they just don't understand these concepts of like within the boundary of attractive masculine behavior. Within that boundary, you can be generous. Outside 100%. Of that boundary, if you're using the generosity because you don't know how to generate attraction, then you're maladapted for the situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's important that you guys bring this up because what a lot of guys conflate, and I hear it all the time doing calls and just being around a lot of these guys, is that they conflate being a gentleman with being a simp. And they're two very, very different things. So I think both of you, it's a great opportunity for you to clarify the difference between the two.
For me, I think
because a lot of things that what they think are gentlemen-like are really them simping. So what's the difference?
I'm gonna have 2 different parts. Homath has a really great description where he talks about attraction and comfort. Right? Yeah. He talks about the 2 things. If a man is all attraction and no comfort, he's a fuckboy. If a man is all comfort and no attraction, he's her gay best friend.
Yeah.
If a man is attraction and then once he has attraction builds comfort, he calls it Prince Charming. This is the guy who's attracted to the woman. This is the girl who's attracted to the guy who she is outrageously physically attracted for his body and wants sex with him all the time. And at the same time, he provides for her and additionally builds comfort. Does that make sense? So that's the thing that gentleman game can give you. It's attraction and comfort at the same time internally. Externally, what these other guys are seeing that they're not grasping is that they can't do both things. And all they see is the generosity and conflate that with simpy behavior because they don't understand. Right. It's okay to do things to build comfort with a woman when she's attracted. It's not okay to do things that buying a girl flowers who isn't attracted to you is nonsense. Like, that's crazy. That's terrible advice. A girl who literally worships the ground you walk on, buy her all the flowers you want. Sure. The problem is the guys watching this have never had a woman genuinely desire them to that extent, so they cannot speak that language, so it makes no sense. So anything other than putting a hoe in her place is simpy behavior.
I don't think you could say it any better than that. That is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. All day.
Beautiful.
It's when the value exchange is not equal.
Right.
It's that simple.
Which is why you need to work on becoming that guy
you have
first.
to become that guy. And that's kind of the point I was trying to make about a person that's powerful enough to hurt the child, hurt the elderly person. You have the power to break her heart in that moment. You choose not to because there's an equal exchange of value.
Yeah.
And there's guidelines there in a frame.
Yeah.
And so you can love her all you want at that point. And then I would even go as far as to argue is at that point it's fulfilling. That is the beautiful part about love, is that you can go out and capture things and conquer the world and bring it back to people you care about, whether it's romantically or people in your family or what have you. So yeah, it's completely the in exchange of value. And so if you're able to do it in the way that Michael just eloquently explained, I think you're dead on.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. So here's the other thing is, love this. I would really like you should get t-shirts made like this. I like these kind of problems.
Yeah, that's my kind of problem.
Yeah. So it's my kind of problem. I think of Mike Singletary. You remember when the football player when he was playing middle linebacker for the Bears? He goes, "I like this kind of party." He's like, because he's knocking the shit out of these dudes, and they cannot run the ball on him. He goes, "I like this kind of party." Yeah. It's the same type of situation. Jocko Willnick says, "Good." He goes, "Hey man, you just made $10 million. Good. Hey man, your wife just left you. Good. No matter what happens. Right. Hey man, the ETA, we just lost 3 of the guys in the. We're going to be late. Good. Right. Hey man, the mission got canceled. We don't have to go out there and kill these dudes. Good. No matter what happens, it's a function of stoicism. In this case, you're embracing a level of chaos. I like these kind of problems.
That's right.
Can you go into that?
Yeah. So I always say you can tell the size of a man by the size of problems, and a lot of people have really small problems.
Yeah.
And so in life, you're either gonna have trouble with the fact that somebody owes you $1 million, or you're not gonna be able to pay your light bill. So to me, the bigger the problems, the better your life is going to be, because you're going to ultimately solve these problems. And then when you solve big problems, you have big results. So that's the reason why I feel that way. It's like the harder it is, the better your opportunity is going to be, the more likely that the other people around you are not going to be able to solve these problems or quit before they do. And you're just going to have a better life. So good.
Good. That's right, man. Good. The stoicism thing didn't really make sense to me. From someone on the outside looking in, stoicism looks like an asshole. He's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, no, it's not that. It's just that I have these burdens on me and I don't have the luxury of expressing myself emotionally all the time. You want to know why? Because other people are looking at me. I bring up this example. When there's an engine fire in flight, there's an emergency checklist that we run in the airplane. When engine fire in flight, step one is not shit your pants. That is not, I've checked the other day. It's not, step one is not pee on yourself. Step one is cut the fuel line to the engine. It is not to be reactive. It is to have practice to know these things. And if you were to look at the guys when they're doing it, they're like, oh, fuck. They're like, here we go. This is what we practice.
Right.
That's what stoicism looks like. And it makes sense. Just consider like a woman wanting a man to be more vulnerable. Now consider someone has broken into your home. You come home, someone has broken into your home, and the police show up. And when the police go in, they're telling you about an existential crisis they're going through versus some SWAT team motherfuckers who show up with stoic looks on their face to go handle business. It's like when you are in those situations, you want men to be stoic and not affected emotionally, externally by those things. I still have the same feelings that other people do. It's just I'm a leader, and therefore other people are looking to me, especially my facial expressions, to see how I deal with the fact that, hey, maybe we don't have enough runway or we didn't make enough profit this month or whatever the situation is.
1,000%. And that also leads into the crying thing. A lot of people give shit to us, or at least me, for talking about the fact that I don't think you should cry in front of your family or your woman. Well, in that moment of chaos, everybody's looking to the leader to be the strong, stoic one. It doesn't mean that you don't feel those feelings. It means that you're the person that is the emotional rock that you are the rock that her emotional waves crash into. Yeah. That's what's being a leader is about. If you're sitting there crying like a little bitch and she's sitting there crying with you, now she has a girlfriend. You have two girlfriends crying, and it's just not the time for it. You have to be strong enough to be there and be the support system for not only your girl if she's crying, or your team when things look bad, or in your situation with the plane. Yeah, you got to get the fuel to get off the fire. Yeah. So we have to stop this, and you have to do these things in a stoic way and a non-emotional way. And honestly, to be quite honest with you, I think the best leaders are actually their best in chaos.
Yes.
I fucking love chaos.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it makes me feel alive.
I mean, how do you know who you are without it?
I guess you don't, do you?
Yeah.
Right.
But then you find out.
It's the general who's really good at like conquering the country, but then isn't really a good leader afterwards. Sometimes they're just better in the chaotic situation. Yeah. Or the politician who's better at running for office than he is at actually operating when he gets into office. Right. One thing I want to talk about, so I happen to be religious. I have Richard Dawkins' book up here, and Richard Dawkins is not religious, but I kind of have the same feeling about religion. You had a discussion about this before, and this is a paradox that I can't remember who initially came up with this paradox, but it was the concept of the two islands that you mentioned before. Yeah. And I don't know if you ever heard this paradox before. So it's the concept, like, and by the way, in this discussion, we are not determining whether or not God is real. I happen to be a Protestant, but like in this discussion, hypothetically, that's not part of the discussion we're about to have. The discussion is whether or not, what is the purpose that religion plays in society? Yeah. And I thought this was a really interesting point. So there's this one belief that if you consider like Catholicism putting together all these nations, like forming nation states so that we could eventually get to the Renaissance and then eventually get into the Industrial Revolution, those things in part were organized through religion. But there was another thing, and I thought...
Much more than in part. I think they're a massive part.
For sure. Yeah. And then the other part was the thing that you mentioned that Andrew had talked about, which was the concept, if you go onto two different islands, if you go to
you have a shipwreck,
yes,
and you can
shipwreck.
Swim in either direction.
Yes.
And you go to Island A, who has no religion, doesn't believe in God, and they kill you, or you go to Island B, and they do believe in God, and they take you in. Is God real? The argument is, it certainly is in this scenario. Because even if there's not a man in the sky to judge Island B or Island A, the thought and the belief in God inside religion saved your life if you went to Island B. And it killed you if you went to Island, or at least allowed you to die in Island A. Yeah. So what's the question?
Yeah, the concept is really interesting. It's like the purpose of religion in that case. Like for instance, you may like in certain Muslim cultures, if you have someone who asks you for housing or asks you for shelter, you have to give it to them, right? So now their God that you don't believe in has saved your life. Right. When you think about that from the standpoint of an entire species over 100,000 years, then it seems like that is part of the, I mean, you can go back and look at purposes for altruism, but it is one of the reasons why our society was able to grow the way that it was. And then you look at the camaraderie in places like SEC football, right, where religion is much stronger than it is in other places in the country. And then you start to you start to understand the purpose of what religion is, and I just think it's just an interesting philosophical discussion.
I don't think society is where it is today without religion. In fact, I believe there are heat maps that can show you where Christianity has gone over the past however many years that it took, and you can watch societies actually function.
Yeah.
You know? And that has nothing to do with whether there's a man in the sky or not. In a lot of ways, I believe it's like a collective consciousness of morals and systems that made us not kill each other, not kind of work together, get things off and roll in a direction that would create a society that would work. Now, in many ways, I think we're kind of getting away from that now. And so it's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out. But I definitely, you have to give credit where it's due, and religion is, in my opinion, the sole reason that we have the society that we have today.
I mean, if we consider it, if we go to Atheism Island, when we're there, people are acting in the most rational way possible, which is to kill the stranger. Like from a statistical standpoint, that is the right thing. The stranger may have pathogens or may have malintention for us. If we go to Religion Island, when we go there, it's like one of these things where it's like altruism for altruism's sake. Like we have basically put it into our scripture that you are supposed to be unapologetically nice to your neighbor to the point to where you can actually build a society. Does that make sense? Because before that, when you deal with like hunter-gatherer tribes, before that time period, if you saw someone from a different tribe, you were supposed to kill them. That was the only thing that was the only chance you had. So I think it's really interesting when you have that conversation. I know it was way off topic, but it was just something you talked about in a different thing, and I thought it was.
We're gonna be in the next MutiCat video now.
Yes,
after
for sure.
you brought that up.
For sure.
MutiCat?
MutiCat.
Is he not in it?
No, I am, but because you haven't. So MutiCat did a video. It's got about 800,000 views, and it's called Debunking Evolutionary Psychology. It says, I debunked evolutionary psychology. And she goes after mainly David Buss and Jeffrey Miller and a little bit of Chris Williamson. She goes, those are the main three. And then afterwards, there's a little bit of me she goes after, and then a little bit of Myron. There's images of Andrew Tate, but she doesn't really talk about Andrew Tate because Andrew Tate doesn't talk about evolutionary psychology that much. But this is basically the concept of evolutionary study and behavioral genetics being offensive to her, because if men's aggression and assertiveness and leadership behavior is a function of genetics, then you cannot blame men for patriarchy. And that is an unacceptable narrative for someone who's politically progressive. Liberals there must be a patriarchy, and you must be able to blame men for it. Those two things must be held true. And because she held those beliefs, that's why she made this video. She might not even be aware of that, but that's why she made the video. And so I thought it was really interesting if you ever see it, it's really, it's 3 hours long.
You have to send it to me.
Yeah, it's 3 hours long. But yeah, I was sitting there writing Dr. Buss, and I was telling him, I was like, hey, they're doing this video, blah, blah, blah. I sent it to him. And then I keep watching it, and then I'm in it. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Wow.
Yeah. And so I thought that part was pretty interesting. So here we go. I thought this was also really interesting. I talk about this before. As men, we give attention to people, and especially give attention to women based on their physical attractiveness, and that's why we like them. And you talk about complimenting someone on something that they worked for, as opposed to something, just complimenting them on something they were just given. Right.
So you have to understand is that people are going to have natural things that are in their favor. They might inherit a lot of money. You don't want to go up to the guy that inherited a lot of money and be like, oh man, that's so awesome that you're rich. You want to talk to him about something that he had to work for in order for him to be proud enough of the thing for him to be able to appreciate the compliment in the first place. So I'd never go up to a girl and just tell her she was beautiful. I would have to find something about her that at least that she worked for herself so she could actually be proud of herself, because people know whether they earn something or not. And so when it comes to compliments, I think the deepest, most impactful compliments come from complimenting things that the individual had to work for, particularly work hard for. And I just think that's the best way to compliment somebody in general. That's all.
Yeah, it is really important.
And they value you more when you do that.
Absolutely, because you saw them for what they did as a person, not just something that was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And consider this, guys. So why this is important is if a woman gives away sex for free, then her value can drop in society. Right. Because to a woman, that's how we judge them, rightly or wrongly. That's how we judge them. For a woman to give attention to a man costs her nothing because she's trying to get attention. If you give your attention away for free, it's the same thing as a woman giving her sex away for free. So when are you giving your attention away? When you're staring at her boobs, when you're complimenting her because of her physical attractiveness, because she knows internally that she did nothing to earn it. She'll tell you thank you. She'll appreciate the fact that you gave her $10 for a 30-day subscription on her fucking OnlyFans. She'll appreciate that. But she's not attracted to you because you did it, because you gave her something for nothing. Well, you talk about earn the date. She did not earn the date. She did not earn getting to have sex with you. She did not earn those things because she only got those things because of her physical form. And even women don't respect men who do this. It's, by the way, the same thing that happens if you take a woman back who cheats on you. If she cheats on you in those type of situations, while externally she may be thanking you for the fact that you took her back and did not invoke all this chaos into her life, the reality of the situation is, in her mind, she's always going to be like, this guy who I cheated on took me back. I'm dating the guy who gets cheated on and takes back women. Right. I'm sitting there talking to the guy who leaves heart eye emojis on a girl's comments on her Instagram photo of her showing her butthole. Like that's right. What happens. And so I'm not telling you, ladies, show your butthole, do whatever you want. I'm not judging you for that. What I'm saying is, as men, when you give away attention for free, it lowers your value, just like if a woman gives away sex for free, it lowers hers. And the guys don't grasp that concept. So whenever I talk to a girl, I want to talk to her. If she has a master's degree, I'm focusing on that. If she paid off a house, I'm focusing on that. Something other than the idea of how physically attractive she is.
Why do you think what you guys are saying is so like if you said this outside of this
sphere.
Club sphere that we're in, that's like offensive to a lot of people. Why do you think that is?
Because I'm going to give the short answer here. We'll go back to some of the most dimorphic sex differences between men and women. One of them is that men are always, in every culture, measured, are more interested in casual sex than women.
Yeah.
That idea, which while to the three of us is totally obvious.
Sure.
There's not even a question. The sluttiest girl I know has no interest in the level of casual sex that an average Marine I know. The average guy does. It's not even close. But the idea that men, because of their genetics, are more interested in casual sex is very non-egalitarian. Well, I'm a woman. I can fuck all the men I want too. Then they go look at Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion like, yeah, they're supporting my narrative. Yes, I agree with this. Feminism, woman power, all this kind of stuff. And so when you come to the realization, it's like, no, that's not actually what you want. How dare you tell me that? I was like, well, I actually have data to show that this isn't really what you want. Just new data, it's come out, I saw recently. Top 5% of men have had 35 sexual partners. The top 1% of men, top 35% of men is 50 sexual partners. The top 1% of men, it's 150 sexual partners. For women, the top 5% of women, it's 16 sexual partners. The top 1%, it's 35 sexual partners. So just consider that. Like the top for men is like 5x what it is for women.
Yeah.
And so
it's the patriarchy.
Yeah, it's the patriarchy. So the reason why it's offensive is because when I've made that innate sex difference that men can have sex with women and it not be emotional, then women have to respond and say, no, we can too. And the thing is, you can sort of, but you're kind of wrecked at that point.
Yeah.
And that's what's offensive.
It is completely against their nature.
Yeah.
Like men and women are not wired the same.
Yeah.
We have
even that's offensive to say now.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is that offensive?
Well, that's what
outside of this
that's all
room,
that's all
I hear.
Evolutionary studies is the innate sex differences between men and women. So here's the thing: you and I have been having these discussions. Like when Andrew says certain things, and we're all like, "Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see where his point is." The thing is, someone somewhere had to do a study on it, and when they did, you know what they found out? Most of the time, Andrew's completely right. And when they figured that out, they're like, "Oh fuck, you mean there's data to back up some of this shit?"
Yeah.
That must be repressed. That must be repressed. Therefore, that means that Dr. David Buss is some MAGA hat carrying, like, bigot misogynist. No, he's not. I think he's a Democrat for all I know.
He's a Democrat.
I think he's a Democrat. Like seriously. And like Lita Cosmides is a fucking female. Like the stuff you're saying isn't true. And so so the problem is when he says it, it's trust me, bro. But the reality is there's data to back up what he says. And when he uses that data, it becomes way more offensive.
What's really interesting is what I actually see happening is before all this social media stuff, guys that were actually in a position to actually see hypergamy or see enough women to be able to share these things didn't have a mic in front of them.
Yes.
Now you say it and there's no way that guy's right. There's got to be bullshit. It can't be true. I have to believe everything that I was wired to believe. And then Buss comes in and is like, no, actually, that's exactly how it goes down.
Yeah.
So some guy is living it. And now he's saying it into a microphone that is now on a podcast.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, Dr. David Buss is giving the information to back it up.
Yeah.
And that really, I think more than anything, just pisses people off.
Again, we'll use the most extreme examples in the last 100 years. Let's say Dan Bilzerian and Hugh Hefner are sitting right here.
Sure.
Like, there's no argument. Hey, guys, do you think men are more interested in casual sex than women? And then, like, I don't even, here's a really funny thing. I have coached at this point, we've had 1,600 guys go through Men of Action. I asked this question all the time. I was like, guys, do you believe, put a 1 in the chat, if you believe that a man can absolutely, totally, and completely love his wife, respect his children, and go have sex with another woman and still love his wife? And I have never had a single guy tell me no. How is that possible?
Even gay guys will say this is correct.
Even gay guys will say this is right.
1,000% correct. And I cannot emphasize how much this man loves this woman.
Yeah.
He loves her with every ounce of him.
Yeah.
Like it's not even close. And let me tell you another thing that I don't think women understand about this subject. She could be ugly. It's just a half filet mignon all the time. I will eat a hot dog.
Yeah, totally.
She could be ugly. Totally. Like you're not.
I can't believe you cheated on me with that ugly bitch.
With that ugly bitch. I'm like, bro, it was Tuesday afternoon.
No, it was Tuesday afternoon. Like, listen, I don't want STK every day. Sometimes I will have In-N-Out. Like, it's fine.
And I would appreciate it if you'd help me.
Not only help me have In-N-Out, I'd appreciate it if you don't judge me. None of you judge me. Sometimes I eat In-N-Out. It's fine.
It's like women think, because of women, most often when they have sex with a man, they start to develop feelings for a man. I'm telling you right now, a man can sleep with a woman in 100 out of 100. If that's not actually the woman he loves, it's not going to change his opinion of the woman.
Of course.
At all.
And when I hear women are like, oh, I had a threesome and my man left me. No, you were dating a cheater. What happened was you were dating a cheater, and then you had a threesome to try to fix your relationship.
Right, which I also think is funny, because I know a lot of guys, they have threesomes with their girl, and then all of a sudden she finds out that he's also sleeping with other women, and I'm like, I see the move that she tried to pull. She's like, okay, well, if I give him a threesome, I can control where his penis goes. Yeah. No, bitch. No, that's not true. Sorry. And he doesn't care about those girls. And I would also go as far as to argue that, especially like a high-level guy, you cannot have sex with him and make him fall in love with you. Like, that's not, in my opinion, how men actually fall in love. I think they fall in love in other ways. Like, I've never slept with a woman and be like, she might be the one. You know what I'm saying? Or I could grow feelings for her. I would know that probably at dinner or like in this other moment when we're spending time together. It wouldn't be sex at all. It wouldn't be sex.
It would always be after.
You know,
bro, or
can't be before.
Anywhere but sex, I'd almost say.
You know what does it for me a lot of times? Just because I'm here, and not everyone can do this, but for me, it's like I'll go to a very high stimulus, high status situation, and she doesn't even look at anyone else. Like, she just like literally, the idea, if I go to the bathroom, she wants to go there with me. Like, that is kind of where I fall. And it's because in comparison to the girls who come here and they're like, they get on stage with Marshmallow and leave their boyfriends outside the VIP. That's what I'm used to seeing. I'm not falling in love with a girl like that.
I think mine's intellectual.
Yeah,
I really do. Like, because at some point they all become beautiful, and it's like to find out that they actually are intelligent and they can think for themselves. I think one thing that's probably the most attractive thing to me that you can ever see in a girl is that she can see the world for how it really is. Like, she's cool enough to understand that some of the things that we might even say are actually true because she's at least seen them, and she can accept them in a way that at least allows for the conversation.
For sure. And you know what I've seen?
She may not even like it, but she's not delusional to
she's
ignore
not
reality.
delusional about reality. I think that's so fucking attractive.
Tristan, the biggest misogynists we've ever met are who?
Women.
They're women.
Yeah.
Dude, have you ever met a girl who gets on the other side of this and like, they're all fucking whores? I can't believe, like, they're like the biggest, like, no, they're not. No, they're not all whores. Like, you have to stop saying that's really offensive. Like, I've always said what would be really funny is if there was a plant that went on Fresh and Fit and they were so a female, and she was so misogynistic that Myron was like, whoa, hold on now. Wait a second. We don't want to enslave women. What are you saying? No, the 19th Amendment. Like, I would love that. I would love if somebody did that. Like, just some girl who just went so far to the right that Myron's like, wait, stop.
We should set it up.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We absolutely should.
That would be hilarious.
I've been saying that forever. The other one that I thought would be funny is if Rolo and Myron go to a college campus but dress up like professors, like they wear wigs and stuff and start arguing against their own points. Again, that would be fucking hilarious if somebody did something like that. I love this one. It's not a bad man you should fear. It's a desperate man.
1,000%.
You told me that, and I didn't get it. And then going back and looking on like two of my previous business partners who like try to rip me off, and then seeing the situation with other people trying to copy my business or whatever, I didn't understand. Like, these guys didn't start off as bad. They were just desperate.
They're desperate.
And I didn't get it. And can you go into
that? Yeah, so you're right. And I made a video about this recently. it's a bad man oftentimes is too lazy to even do anything about it.
Yeah.
He would fuck you if he could, probably, because he's a bad guy. But often bad guys are generally lazy and have other fish to fry. But a desperate man, that's the man that's going to fuck you. Yeah. That's the man that's going to hurt you. I can give you multiple examples. I'll give you two.
Yeah.
Two guys are friends for 30 years. One of the friends gets married. The other friend spends all his time at his buddy's house playing football, and he gets to know the wife, and they're all friends for 15 or 20 years. And then all of a sudden, friend B gets a divorce with his wife. Well, the first thing she does to piss him off is try to sleep with his best friend.
Yes.
But friend A had not done the things to be able to attract women himself, never got married, is now in this drought, in this desperate place to sleep with a woman. And here it is right there in his face. And the desperate man will ruin that friendship.
Yeah.
He's not a bad man, he's desperate. Case two, good guy, works his ass off, works in the plant all week, doing everything he can to support his family. It's Christmas or inflation's going through the roof and he can't buy groceries. That's the man that robs the liquor store and then shoots somebody and catches prison sentence. Not the bad man. The bad man is dealing drugs and he's got a whole cartel and he's like trafficking people and kids and all these other things maybe. The desperate man is the man that you really have to worry about.
Yeah.
Because he's the one that will take action because he has no choice. He's pinned against the wall of survival at that point. So I always watch out for people that are desperate. I often say that I don't want to be friends with somebody that's not in abundance of money and women.
Yeah.
Because those are the two things where you're going to find out who your friends are. And that's where you're going to get hurt. So even if they're not a bad person, if they don't have abundance in those two areas, I know that they have desperation in those two areas. And that's what'll get you cooked.
Beautiful, man. You have one or two courses coming out, right? You have a real estate course and an internet marketing course?
Yeah, so we just started our school group. Nice. Where you can go in, we're going to help you set up your life, like all the vision you have, everything you want to become when you grow up. You know what I'm saying? Everything that I did, the things that I worked on, it's basically a culmination of everything I ever did to set my life up the way I did, you know, in the vision for it.
It's like what you wish you had back then.
Where it's like what I'm becoming and the path I'm on. So we're going to get these people in there and get them on the right path to where they want to go, whatever that may be. But for the people that want to do real estate and want to do construction, so we have an event on June 19th that we're going to teach real estate. There's a bunch of big players coming in. It's going to be all day things. But
where?
Yes, it's in Nashville, Tennessee. However.
What day?
June 19th and 20th.
Get the fuck out of here. I'm going to have me in Nashville.
Bro.
I'll be there.
All right, cool.
Let me know. I'm going to Taylor Welsh's thing on the 20th and 21st.
Bet.
That's crazy.
So me, Chris Rude, Michael Sartain.
Yeah.
But no, we are releasing a real estate course. We're not only are we going to teach you how to go through the different levels of real estate based off of where you are in your career, the type of money you want to make, whether it's fast money, medium money, or slow money. Because, you know, you can make a lot of money flipping houses or wholesaling houses, but then you can develop and then you can invest in big real estate deals the way I do. But you have to understand that there's a gradient learning scale to this, and that's what we're going to teach. And then also, if you do the wrong thing at the wrong time in the debt cycle, you can get wrecked. So what we're going to do is we're going to teach them a course or give them a course that teaches them all of these different gradients, when to use them in what cycle, what skill sets it takes to get these things running. And then instead of just getting rid of them and taking the money, we're going to partner with people that want to do deals and find good deals. So not only are they going to get the education, we're not going to leave them. We're going to partner with these people and help them change their life. So I'm really excited about it. I think that even I am going to make even more money doing it, but we're going to do it with really good people that want to work really hard, that want to learn all the skills in real estate top to bottom and change their own life. So I'm looking forward to it. Chris Rude and I are going to team up on it. It's going to be called Allies, and we're gonna do some really good things. I'm excited about it.
You know what? I'll try to come by the 19th. I'm
please
gonna be there. That sounds awesome. All right, beautiful. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us. We got to run. He has got the busiest week. He said that you done like 10 podcasts this week.
Yeah, it's been completely slammed.
Absolutely, man. You know what the thing I love is like you and I have the same issue. It's like, hey, what do you do for a living? And you're like, I don't really understand.
A bunch of places. There's money coming.
I
got to get rid of taxes.
I exist, and then sort of money finds me. Money just finds us whenever we. It's so funny.
Hey, Tristan, you can tell the size of a man by the size of his problems.
That's right. So that's what we have. We have huge problems. That's all we have. That's what we have in common. Just massive fucking problems. All right, man. Where can we find you?
Yeah, I'd go to Instagram. Justin Win Waller 7 on Instagram. That's JustinWinWaller 7. Instagram. I also have a newsletter, J Waller Daily. So if you go to jwallerdaily.com, I am sending emails out every day, kind of sharing some of the things I learned along my way, and then I'm learning every day myself. You know, you never quit learning.
And I'm on your Telegram group too.
Yeah, I have a Telegram. Yeah, I think of Jay Waller on Telegram.
Yeah, super efficient way to get the data out. I really like Telegram.
We're pushing it a lot.
You can put 100,000 people in one group or more than that. It's better than WhatsApp for that type of stuff. Awesome, man. Well, thank you for coming out. Glad to have Tristan out here, man. Glad to catch up with you again. I mean, we talk all the time, man. He's one of the first guys I go to whenever I want to pitch an idea. When we have an idea for a low ticket offer, you're one of the first guys I called because it's not only the fact that we have big problems. A lot of times we have similar problems or a problem that we've gone through before. And having friends that are high status enough to where even if something you find to be troublesome, embarrassing, a low status thing, or a mistake you made, that you can come communicate with other people, I think that's the best place to be. The emperor has no clothes. Having people in your life that are willing to tell you when you fuck up. So it's great. I'm really happy to have Justin out here. Guys, stay tuned. We got another episode coming up to you really soon. I got a really, really exciting special guest coming up next week. Not as special as this one, but we're really excited to see you guys next week.